talking about something that's really good. It's time for Becoming Gift with Andrew Reinhart. Good morning to you, Andrew.
Good morning, Pat, Dave, and Ron. How are you?
Doing great.
Good,
Again,
Andrew.
a reminder, find out all things related to Andrew Reinhart. Visit becominggift.com.
Well, we're going through a series about remaining human while using AI, using Pope Leo's document, Magnifica Humanitas, but in it trying to take a little bit of a different tact of what's the moral interpretation, not talking to society or corporations, but us personally. How do we personally stay close to the Lord if we're going to approach or live in a world with this technology? So now we're looking at chapters 1 and 2 today. We talked about the introduction last week. First principle I want to talk about is to bring AI under active spiritual discernment, not just passive acceptance. So using AI is not a morally neutral act. We talked about last week the need to use it to some extent. We're probably not going to be able to avoid it, but also to not use it is to not take our seat at the table and participate in its creation. So if we're going to be at that table, we need to bring it under active spiritual discernment. So we're each called to discern in a particular way how to use AI, and if it's drawing us closer to God or further away. This is what Pope Leo says. He says, listening to many voices is not mere sociological exercise, but instead requires spiritual discernment. Guided by the Spirit, the people of God come to recognize in cultural and social transformations both the signs of the presence of Christ, who comes and guides history toward its fulfillment, and those aberrations that obscure his face. So this is interesting. If God's allowing this to happen, the question is, in his providence, why? How is God going to use AI for the greater good? Not just for the world, but also for us. It says, history is thus understood as one of the places in which the church allows herself to be taught by the Spirit about the humanizing power of the gospel. Or how can we humanize this technology and become part of its creation and part of its use? All right, second principle, resist the temptation to let AI define what is true for you. Right, this is going to be a hard one because it's pretty darn smart these days, right? So truth is arrived at, though, through this process of discernment, through knowing scripture, tradition, your own reason, your lived experience. So if we outsource our reasoning and understanding of reality to AI systems, we abandon that process of becoming fully human ourselves. So while AI can be used as a tool to gather information, it can't be a substitute for this kind of encounter between the gospel and our life. This is what Pope Leo says in paragraph 27, that it's born from the encounter between the eternal truth of the gospel and the questions of history. Right, we need to live in this space, not outsourcing our reason, which is our highest human faculty. And the third principle flows from this. If we don't want to outsource our reason, we also need to not outsource our freedom. We need to guard against our loss of inner freedom, not let AI make choices for us in matters of conscience. Right? It's good to go to AI sometime and ask it a question. What should I do here? Right. Help me think through this. But on the other hand, we can't use the reason I did it because the AI told me to. Right? I did it because ChatGPT told me this would be the best thing, or this is the smart thing, or this is the choice I should make for my health, or the way I should approach this disease, or the way I should handle the situation with my family. AI might offer you answers and recommendations on matters of conscience, but you must retain your own sovereign interior freedom. So delegating those choices to the algorithm is a failure of the person to live their own God-given dignity and to keep their moral agency. And then finally, don't allow the AI to reduce you or anyone you encounter to what you produce. This is a great temptation of our system as it is in the market economy, where our value is what our economic value is. But this is going to become even more exacerbated in a world driven by AI. So we must not allow AI systems to define our worth based on our outputs, how much data we produce, how many lines of code we create, the measurable performance that we have in the world. But then also we need to resist that for other people, right? I think some people might sort of drive into AI as a way to not deal with others.
Right.
And so other people will become even less valuable for them in their relationship. They'll be even more isolated, even less connected. Pope Leo says in paragraph 51, from this perspective, persons end up being reduced to a means of achieving results, a resource to be used and exploited, and are no longer recognized as a proper end in themselves, who would never be instrumentalized. The value of persons, however, does not depend on what they achieve or produce. So ultimately our value comes from God, not from AI, not from its results, not from how much money we make or how productive we are or what we quote unquote contribute to the world, to put it in a better framing. But our dignity comes from the Lord. And by using this technology, it can subtly start to change the way we see ourselves in the world around us, to think that our value could come from what we produce. So these 4 principles in these first 2 chapters of the encyclical bring AI under the act of spiritual discernment, to resist the temptation to outsource our reason to AI, to resist the temptation to outsource our freedom, and then not to reduce ourselves to the value that we produce, but to see ourselves as the value of what God created.
Well, you make a great point with AI, and it really goes for all technology over the years. I mean, as the advancements have happened, the connectivity, we're not connecting as people as much as we should.
That's right. But it can become a great means of connecting to people you wouldn't have otherwise, right?
Right.
That's true.
How many of us have like that old high school friend and you run into him on Facebook and you message them and then you get together and catch up, or you make a phone call.
That's true.
Right. So it's all about how you use the tool, right? You could use the tool in such a way that you have actually no close friends and nobody actually knows you. And your life is just a show where you present yourself to the world through these platforms, but you can also use them to enhance your connection and relationship. So this is where all these principles of action come into play.
And don't you think it's part of, for young people, especially kids, young adults, it is that sense of they have to kind of be trained in virtue before they know how to use this. We just throw technology at them and think they know what they're supposed to do with it. And it ends up then sometimes being just what you said. It ends up being almost a source of loneliness, because this is the only way I can relate and it's not fulfilling, so they need training and kind of maturity to understand how do we use this well.
Yeah, it's definitely a both and. It's sort of like marriage prep, right?
Right.
Because you need some preparation to do it well.
Right.
Obviously, your whole life is preparation for your marriage, but then, the classes you get at church or your meetings with your pastor or whatever.
Right.
But then the way you get good at being married is that you're married to someone and you work it out. So so we need that fundamental training. And I would say especially with this technology because, I said last week, it has the potential to replace our emotional attachments.
Yep.
Because you talk to the chatbot and it seems really human. And, people are starting to date their AIs and all this craziness.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, we can't, I think, delay using it to an extreme because then you're going into it on your own without somebody to walk with you while you're using it.
For me, and this probably surprised all of you, I'm not very organized. So I have found some of the tools to be very, very helpful in the right context. So as you said, it's all about, you've got to pray for wisdom to be able to use it in a productive way, maybe not excuse it altogether when it could be helpful, but don't go in wrong directions with it. I love what you said, Pat. You have to come in being trained in virtue to be able to use it correctly.
Right. You got to know. You just have to, I just think we do this so often with kids. We just throw stuff at them and think they'll know how to use it well.
Yeah.
Well, they watch television 20 hours a day if you let them. You got to help them.